All right. Good evening, everyone. Thanks to everyone for joining us on another wonderful Tuesday night. Charlie's in Costa Mesa, and I'm in Palo Alto. It's about time. Let's begin. That's great. There's so many different people joining in tonight. I'd just like to thank MyT.coach, AFI, and Dragonfly TV for hosting tonight's event. Today's conversation is going to be an interesting and non-traditional topic, to say the least. Our guest tonight is Charlie Chang. Many of you have probably seen some of his YouTube videos, where Charlie talks about entrepreneurship and personal finance. Charlie's content has resounded with people from all over the globe, as his channel currently holds an impressive number of almost 1 million subscribers. Charlie and I actually share a similar educational background. We both attended Gunn High School in Palo Alto, and we're just down the road from Stanford. Charlie also graduated from UCLA, where I'm currently attending. Charlie and I first met at the beginning of the pandemic over 2 years ago, and I was so fascinated by his ideas from that first conversation. What made Charlie so interesting was that he was outspoken about wanting to be his own boss and wanting to follow his own passions for a living. After exploring all kinds of interests and business ideas, Charlie now has more than 12 ways of income. As a result, Charlie is very ambitious and gets to do what he enjoys while making over $1 million a year. So that being said, let's dive right in. All right, Charlie, to start, could you perhaps tell us your story about UCLA? What were your initial plans going into UCLA? And perhaps how did your plans change throughout your enrollment there?
First of all, Leo, thanks for having me. And hi, everyone. My name is Charlie. So UCLA. I went into UCLA wanting to be a doctor. So I went in undeclared, but my parents really wanted me to become a doctor. So after maybe half a school year, I decided to major in psychobiology. And for the next 4 years, I did the whole pre-med route, took all my prereqs. I tried to shadow doctors, did research in psych at UCLA.
Did labs and whatnot?
Sorry?
You did labs and stuff at UCLA
Yeah, I
as
did
well?
like psych research.
Mhm.
Yeah. And yeah, the whole goal was to just apply to med school and
Yeah.
become a doctor.
So what sprouted the change then at your time at UCLA to perhaps deviate from the doctor route?
I've never really enjoyed medicine. So even the
Yeah.
thought of needles, blood, I don't like any of it.
Yeah.
I can't even really get shots. I got my vaccines, but I was super scared.
Yeah.
So I think it was always a lot of external pressure for me to become a
Mhm.
doctor. And it was, not it was also my fault because I didn't have a strong enough personality where I was like, hey, I don't want to do this. I want to try other things.
Yeah.
So it's always in the back of my mind, I don't really want to do this, but I'm going to do it because my parents want me to. It's a great career. It's a very traditional path, and
It's
it's
like the safe route.
it's a guaranteed way to, make a good amount of money.
Mhm.
So I took a lot of comfort in like knowing that I was going to become a doctor, even though I didn't really want to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. So it all came down to passion is what you're saying. You didn't have the passion for it. So even though you spent 4 years in college, you decided that's not what you wanted to do for the rest of your
Yeah,
life.
I didn't have the passion. Funny story. I even I was an EMT for a little bit, where I got my
Oh,
EMT
oh
license,
wow.
and then I tried to work as an EMT,
Mhm.
and I was so bad multitasking that I didn't even pass my EMT certification through. Well, I got the license, but when I was training with the company, they didn't pass
Yeah.
me. So I decided I'm just not gonna do it, and that was an $11 an hour job. So I got
Yeah.
rejected from $11 an hour job.
And really
Um,
stressful too, right? Really mentally taxing.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Especially if you don't enjoy it.
Hmm. Yep. So eventually, at the same time I
This
was
isn't for
applying to
me.
med school,
Hmm.
I applied to I don't know 20 schools or something. Got only one interview at UC San Diego, went to that interview and I, gave them my all, but didn't get in. So after that, I
Mhm.
was like, all right, I'm officially like done pursuing this whole
That
med
was the
thing.
final nail in the coffin, was not in
Yeah,
med school, might as well go for what I enjoy.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So a bit of a segue about college. You're quite well known for your opinions on the education system in America, and specifically the value or lack thereof in attending university. Could you perhaps elaborate on these opinions?
yeah. I mean, I think college is right for a lot of people, especially people that want to go into like the more traditional career paths. But for people that don't really know what they want to do, and then you go to college and get a degree like psychobiology, which is what I was.
Mhm.
There's not that much stuff you can do with it. Um, it's not very applicable to like the real world. So after I graduated, I didn't really have any job prospects. And to me, the whole education system is just a little bit outdated. I feel like
Mhm.
it doesn't apply as much for people that want to do business for themselves, or explore different side hustles or businesses and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm a big believer that college is not right for everyone, and there are also like many better uses for a lot of people's times in terms of like ROI, return on investment, right?
Mhm.
You can go to college for 4 years and get a degree, and that degree could be like pretty worthless in terms of making money, which I
Yeah.
think is why most people want to go to college, right? They want to
Mhm.
make money for themselves. Um, so yeah, there's so many other like high income skills that people can learn in a few months or a year, whatever, that can translate into making the same, if not more money. So
Mhm. And that's especially with the high cost of college, right, in the United States,
yeah,
especially at private schools where you're going into hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt
it is
sometimes
really
for a
expensive.
degree.
And I was lucky enough where my parents paid for my tuition in my
Mhm.
college. So I graduated without any debt. But if I did have debt, man, it would have been a lot more rough after college. I wouldn't have as much money to like build my businesses with.
Yeah.
So really grateful for that. But yeah, the cost of college is really, really big. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like there's so much information that you can learn online these days, on platforms like YouTube. That's where I learned a lot of the side hustles that I eventually ended up doing, both during college and after college. So yeah, there's just a lot of free information, and I feel like more people should take advantage of that.
Yeah. Yeah. That definitely makes sense. So, understanding your feelings on America's education system, can you share anything that you found extremely meaningful while attending UCLA?
Yeah, I mean, going to UCLA, I was surrounded by a lot of really like bright people.
Yeah.
I met a good amount of people, and I got to live out the whole college experience, going to parties, but still
Hmm.
studying hard, all that stuff. So I would say like I still had a great time in college, and I wouldn't like necessarily take it back because I did come out definitely ahead.
Hmm.
But there are many regrets I have with sort of like how I went about college.
Yeah. Yeah.
For example, like I had a long-term girlfriend, and I personally think that's not a smart thing to do while you're in college, because then you spend a lot of time with them
Hmm.
and you don't really, try and eat lunch or dinner with other people. You might not spend as much time trying to network or joining
Hmm.
different clubs and all that stuff. So yeah, I do have some regrets with how I did college, but overall, it was a good experience.
Yeah. That makes sense as well.
Yeah.
It's getting your priorities right, while
Mhm.
you're at college, which is a great opportunity to meet
Yeah.
others.
And I think anyone that's going to college, if you don't know exactly what you want to do, like you should be experimenting with a ton of different side hustles.
Hmm.
So I'm really glad because during college, I started doing, I kept doing photography. So I do a lot of portraits and grad shoots. That's how I sort of like made money on my own. I got into, like, since we were in LA, I got into modeling. So I would do like commercial print auditions and all that
Mhm.
stuff. Um, I made videos. Um, yeah, just and after
Pretty
school,
much
I
anything you
started
could, right?
tutoring. Yeah, I just did a lot of
Yeah.
stuff because I knew that like I still wanted to work for myself in some way. And I've always just been like really into sort of like being my own boss
Yeah, yeah. The
and
freedom.
things. Yeah.
Mhm. So, speaking about the hustle life, there's a question from the chat from Leo. He asks, "What can a college student do to start or get into the hustle life? Do you have any advice on specific hustles?"
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think I would try and do some type of high income skill, and what that means is basically anything where you can charge like a pretty significant amount hourly, right? So everything that I've tried to do both during and after college, has been like I look for things that pay a good amount. So
Mhm.
photography, let's see, tutoring. I did that for a couple of years after college. Video, you could do video editing. There's like copywriting, um, email marketing, so many different things like that you guys can learn in 1 to 3 months just online for free,
All the
and then you do it for
certifications, right?
clients. Sorry.
All the online certifications. You
Yeah,
just
you
get
don't even
those.
need like a certification, right?
Mhm.
Like you can just literally learn yourself. People that hire you don't care about your education or like what experience you have really,
Mhm.
besides the results that you can get them. So as long as you're good, then like I think that's a good type of hustle to pursue in college, especially since
Yeah.
you don't have that much time, right? You can't work 8 hours a day while still attending
Mhm.
school. So you might as well make as much money as you can in a couple of hours, versus working like a more minimum wage job.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Another question from the chat from Ethan. He asks, "What advice would you give specifically to incoming freshmen who are looking into to enter business or entrepreneurship?"
Yeah. So same thing. Try and think of some types of side hustles you can do to start making money on your own. I think that's huge because action, you guys, is like super important. And you'll probably fail some of these side hustles. Some of them won't end up working out that well. But I probably failed like, I don't know, 20 plus times in my life, just like doing so many different things, and just like some of them fall off, some of them just like
Mhm.
don't work. I've lost 20 something $1,000s on one of my businesses. Um, but yeah, just go in with the intent to like try different side hustles, and then of course network and meet new people and surround yourself with people that are sort of like-minded.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. That definitely makes
if you
sense.
if you want to be an entrepreneur but all your friends are working normal jobs, then it's very hard to be like sort of like inspired or to have like that like accountability, right? I actually didn't have like entrepreneurship friends until uh like I'm trying to think 8 or 9 years after I graduated college. So I was always surrounded by like very smart people that went into traditional careers. And so I always felt really out of place.
Yeah.
And I think like if I had a better environment that was more suited to what I wanted to do, I would have gone, I would have started making money a lot faster, and I would have like seen a lot more success.
Mhm. Yeah. So now another question from Kelvin in the chat. He asks if you make similar amounts of income from both your content creation as well as your private work, or if one is supplemental to the other.
So most of my income comes from a bunch of different things sort of relating to my personal brand. So like all the content I make. Um, a majority of the money I make comes from my personal brand. So the content I make and how I'm able to monetize that. But until like 2019, 2020, a majority of the money I was making all came from these like service-based businesses, where I would do a service for a client and then they would pay me that way. And it was
Mhm.
mostly tutoring and photography.
Yeah. Now another question in the chat from Brian. He asks that he's heard of side hustles and that a lot of people in college who are currently talking about it all the time. the thing about it is that a lot of the ideas on the internet seem saturated or sometimes even just a scam. And he asks if you ever had these feelings when you first started off in college as an entrepreneur.
Well, back when I was in college, I think the whole side hustle thing was a lot less prevalent.
Hmm.
So just the fact that like a new college student can even think about doing side hustles and make internet money or do service-based business is like really amazing. Like, so if you
Yeah.
start right now, you'll be way ahead of me, right? I feel like I got a pretty late start in entrepreneurship. So props on that first. But yeah, there are like things that are more sketchy in terms of making money online.
Hmm.
I wouldn't recommend, doing drop shipping. I just feel like that whole idea, that whole business model is a little bit flawed and not really that ethical.
Okay.
Um, However, you can still learn a lot from it. Like I even tried doing it before, I failed.
Hmm.
But I'm trying to think. Yeah, like if you do a service-based side hustle, I really think that is going to be how most people start entrepreneurship. So, like doing some type of service for someone, like tutoring or whatever. Like if you guys
Hmm.
are good at the SAT, or if you're good at like standardized testing and stuff like that, you can easily charge like a good amount of money
For
to
tutoring.
tutor
Yeah.
students. Yeah.
Yeah. So Yushi asks in the chat if this means that you're a freelancer and if this means that you buy your own health insurance and perks and whatnot.
So I'm completely self-employed. And you will also be too if you just do side hustles in college or whenever. Like you're by default a sole proprietor. So any money you make, you have to, of course, pay taxes on it.
Yeah.
You have to get your own health insurance. But I think most people that are in college are going to be covered by their parents' insurance until they're 26 years old.
Hmm.
But yeah, after that, health insurance can be pretty expensive. Like I'm
Yeah.
paying I think I'm paying $699 a month for my insurance right now. But that's like the most expensive one.
Hmm.
There's cheaper options like as low as maybe $200. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Now moving on to another question. How did your parents and friends influence your decision to work for yourself?
I didn't grow up in like a really entrepreneurial household. So I never viewed business as something that was possible for me to do. And same thing, like I mentioned before with my friends, like not many of my friends like wanted to work for themselves.
Hmm.
So I did have like yeah, there wasn't that whole entrepreneurship like guidance that I really wish I had when I was growing up. And yeah, I remember after college, I was still trying to figure out what things I was trying to do while applying to med school and all that stuff. And yeah, my parents were super, super worried, and like it makes sense because I really
Yeah.
didn't have like a trajectory.
Hmm.
I was still just trying out a bunch of different things.
Because the future
So
was uncertain, right?
yeah, I was very uncertain, right? Like I was doing like Amazon FBA, I was doing tutoring, I was still doing photographs and stuff like that. So not like a lot of long-term career things that most, I think, immigrant parents would think of as like desirable or
Yeah.
successful, right? So yeah, it makes sense they were worried, but I think eventually if you like try enough things, one thing is going to work out. So
Hmm.
luckily that happened to me.
So just don't be dissuaded by failure and keep trying new things, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
babies like babies keep failing at walking, right? Like they
Hmm.
try so many times, and they just keep
Yeah.
trying again. I feel like adults, if they fail a few times at something, a lot of people like just get discouraged and they just don't want to try anymore.
Hmm.
And yeah, like as long as you learn from that failure and you're able to take those lessons and use them on your next business venture or whatever you're trying to do, then let's say you have like a 10% higher chance of succeeding due to those lessons you learned. Then just
Hmm.
those just compound over time and you become like a pretty good entrepreneur that way.